an intense light, I mean atomic, to leave almost like a photographic imprint on a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
That he was completely scourged all over his body. He was crucified.
Mel Gibson, the man behind The Passion of the Christ, is making a claim that has left people stunned. He's not talking about Hollywood drama or secret projects. No, this is something bigger. He says Jesus was not just a man, not just the Son of God, but something far more mysterious. And if what he's saying is true, then everything about history, religion, and life itself might be completely different from what we've been told. But why would he say this? Where is his proof? And what happens if people start believing him? Well, you're about to find out. The genesis of the controversial claim. Mel Gibson's claims set off a wildfire of debate across the world. Social media exploded with discussions, news channels dissected every aspect of the claims, and religious institutions scrambled to issue responses. The reactions ranged from curiosity and excitement to outright rejection and anger. For centuries, people have debated who Jesus really was. Was he a prophet? The Messiah? Just a wise teacher? But now, Gibson is shaking the world with a claim no one saw coming. According to Gibson, Jesus was an alien. Not a metaphor, not a theory. He says he has proof. Mel Gibson has always been fascinated by religious themes. His 2004 film, The Passion of the Christ, brought intense debates around the world. Some praised its raw emotion and historical depth, while others criticized it for being too violent. But no matter the opinion, one thing was clear. Gibson was deeply invested in the story of Jesus Christ. For years, he kept his religious views relatively private, only discussing them when necessary. His focus shifted to other film projects, and it seemed like he had left biblical storytelling behind. But now, he is back with a claim far more shocking than anything he has ever done before. Instead of simply portraying Jesus as a spiritual leader or divine figure, Gibson has taken a completely different approach. One that intertwines faith, history, and extraterrestrial theories. He now insists that Jesus was not just a man, nor was he simply a divine being in the way most people understand. Instead, Gibson believes the theory that Jesus was of extraterrestrial origin, sent to Earth from an advanced civilization far beyond this planet. This revelation, according to Gibson, is not based on wild speculation. He claims to have spent years studying ancient texts, decoding cryptic messages, and examining physical artifacts that suggest an otherworldly connection. To him, the pieces of the puzzle fit together too perfectly to ignore. This claim is not just a personal belief. Gibson is preparing to release a documentary that he says will provide undeniable proof. The documentary will feature archaeological findings, expert testimonies, and scientific analyses that challenge traditional narratives about Jesus and his true origins. But what kind of evidence could possibly support such an extraordinary theory? What historical clues have led Gibson down this path? Mel Gibson's documentary does not rely on a single source of proof. Instead, it compiles various pieces of evidence, some historical, some scientific, and others rooted in religious texts. He believes that when examined together, these elements form an undeniable case for Jesus' extraterrestrial origins. Throughout history, different civilizations have left behind artifacts depicting mysterious beings descending from the skies. These are not just vague drawings or abstract symbols. Gibson's research shows several ancient relics, including Sumerian tablets, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and early Christian artwork. In some depictions, figures believed to be divine beings are shown inside flying chariots or surrounded by beams of light. He argues that these are not just artistic expressions of spiritual visions, but rather primitive attempts to describe encounters with advanced extraterrestrial visitors. Furthermore, the documentary examines artifacts from South America, where pre-Columbian civilizations worshipped beings they described as sky gods. Some of these artifacts resemble modern depictions of spaceships, with intricate carvings of what appear to be astronauts wearing helmets and control panels. Gibson suggests that these artifacts all point to the same conclusion. Ancient civilizations had contact with beings from beyond Earth, and if extraterrestrial visitors played a role in human history, could Jesus himself have been one of them? The evidence of Mel Gibson's claim. The Bible is filled with descriptions of extraordinary events like miracles, mysterious lights, and divine encounters. Most religious scholars interpret these stories as spiritual lessons or metaphors, but Gibson's documentary proposes a different perspective. What if these events were not supernatural, but technological? Take, for example, the story of Jesus walking on water. Instead of a divine miracle, could it have been an example of advanced anti-gravity technology? The documentary explores ancient texts that describe glowing clouds, pillars of fire, and voices coming from the heavens, phenomena that sound remarkably similar to modern UFO sightings. Another example is the transfiguration of Jesus, where his body is described as glowing with an otherworldly light. Gibson's team analyzes whether this could have been a result of some advanced energy field, rather than a purely spiritual transformation. The resurrection itself is questioned in the documentary. Instead of viewing it as a divine act, Gibson investigates whether Jesus' body might have undergone a process unknown to modern science. Perhaps a form of regeneration or technological revival facilitated by extraterrestrial forces. And what about the Shroud of Turin? The Shroud of Turin has baffled scientists for centuries. Believed to be the burial cloth of Jesus, it bears a faint but detailed image of a man's body. Many religious believers consider it evidence of the resurrection, while skeptics argue it is a medieval forgery. Gibson's documentary takes an entirely different approach.
The Shroud of Turin is this amazing relic. At bottom, it's a piece of cloth. It shows a very faint sort of image of a crucified man. And the crucified man calls us to remember Jesus' death and resurrection.
It suggests that the image on the shroud was not created by natural decomposition or artistic methods, but by a high-energy event, possibly a burst of radiation or an advanced scanning technique. The precision of the imprint, the nature of the discoloration, and the unexplained three-dimensional qualities of the image all hint at a technology far beyond human capabilities at the time. Some researchers have proposed that the shroud's imprint was created by an intense burst of ultraviolet light, something that would require energy levels beyond anything available in the ancient world. Could this be evidence that Jesus' body interacted with an unknown energy source that could be extraterrestrial in origin? For Gibson, the Shroud of Turin is more than just a religious relic. It is a scientific clue, a piece of physical evidence that supports his theory that Jesus was not of this world. When all these elements like the artifacts, the biblical accounts, and the Shroud of Turin are examined collectively, they form a compelling argument, at least from Gibson's perspective. To him, this is not just speculation or science fiction. It is a hidden truth that has been overlooked for centuries. For centuries, religious institutions have carefully selected which texts are included in the official narrative of Christianity, but not all writings about Jesus made it into the Bible. Many ancient manuscripts were excluded, destroyed, or dismissed as heretical. Yet some of these lost texts contain shocking details that could challenge everything people believe about Jesus. Gibson's documentary also brings attention to ancient religious texts that were removed or suppressed over time. Some of these writings, such as the Gnostic Gospels, contain references to Jesus possessing secret knowledge, being a traveler from another realm, and performing feats that defy normal human abilities. While mainstream religious institutions have long dismissed these texts as unorthodox, the documentary argues that they may hold clues to Jesus' true origins. Could it be that early religious leaders, recognizing the full truth, chose to keep it hidden? Another controversial text that never made it into the official Bible is the Book of Enoch. This ancient Jewish manuscript, once widely read but later banned, tells the story of Enoch, a man who was taken to the heavens by supernatural beings. These beings, described as watchers, descended from the sky, shared advanced knowledge, and even altered human DNA. Gibson's documentary points out that the descriptions of these watchers closely match modern accounts of extraterrestrial encounters. If Enoch was documenting real events, then this text could provide evidence of alien intervention in human history, possibly even connected to Jesus himself. With all this evidence laid out, Gibson presents a startling possibility. What if the miracles described in religious texts were not just acts of divine power, but demonstrations of extraterrestrial abilities? But if there is even a chance that Jesus was an extraterrestrial being, what does that mean for Christianity? How does it reshape the foundations of faith? This is where the real controversy begins. Controversial reactions to Gibson's claims. Mel Gibson's theory was never going to be accepted without a fight. The moment the documentary's premise was made public, it sent shockwaves through different communities like religious leaders, historians, scientists, and even UFO researchers. Each group had strong opinions, and not everyone was willing to entertain such a bold claim. For many religious figures, the idea that Jesus was an extraterrestrial is not just controversial, it is outright blasphemous. Christianity is built on the belief that Jesus was the Son of God, sent to earth for the salvation of humanity. Gibson's theory challenges this foundation, replacing divine intervention with alien involvement. Church leaders were quick to reject the claim, calling it an attempt to distort the truth of the Bible. Some argued that it was nothing more than a publicity stunt, a way to stir controversy and attract attention. Others feared that such ideas could mislead believers, pushing them toward conspiracy theories rather than faith. Yet, some within the religious community were more open-minded. A few theologians pointed out that there have always been mysteries within the Bible, stories that modern science struggles to explain. They argued that if Gibson's documentary encouraged people to explore their faith from a new perspective, perhaps it wasn't entirely negative. From a scientific and historical standpoint, skepticism was inevitable. While ancient artifacts and biblical texts are interesting discussion points, they do not serve as concrete proof of extraterrestrial involvement. Experts in archaeology dismissed the interpretation of ancient carvings and paintings as alien visitors, explaining that many of these symbols have cultural or religious meanings that have been misinterpreted. Similarly, physicists and biologists pointed out the lack of verifiable evidence supporting the idea that Jesus possessed otherworldly abilities. Miracles described in the Bible, they argued, are either exaggerations, misinterpretations, or events that have natural explanations. However, some researchers in the field of quantum physics and energy studies found the documentary intriguing. The unexplained elements of the Shroud of Turin, for instance, continue to puzzle scientists. While most experts remain unconvinced, they acknowledge that certain historical mysteries have yet to be fully understood. For the UFO research community, Gibson's involvement in this theory was both exciting and validating. For years, ufologists have speculated about the presence of extraterrestrials in human history. Some have even suggested that biblical figures like Ezekiel, Elijah, and Moses might have had encounters with advanced beings. The documentary gave their ideas mainstream exposure, something they had long struggled to achieve. Some prominent UFO researchers applauded Gibson for daring to ask the questions that others avoided. Others, however, worried that mixing religion with alien theories could discredit the field of UFO research altogether. Beyond the controversy and debates, Mel Gibson's claims have raised a deeper question. What if Jesus really was an extraterrestrial? If true, this revelation would change everything. Religion, history, and even humanity's understanding of its own origins would need to be re-evaluated. It would mean that divine miracles were not supernatural, but technological. That Jesus' mission on earth was not just spiritual, but part of something much larger, perhaps an intergalactic plan. Would this understanding bring people closer to faith or drive them away? Would it unite religious beliefs with scientific discovery, or would it create even deeper divisions? Mel Gibson's documentary does not claim to have all the answers. Instead, it presents a challenge, an invitation to look at history through a different lens. Whether people accept or reject the idea, one thing is certain: the conversation about Jesus, aliens, and the unknown has only just begun. Mel Gibson had made his mark once again, not just in Hollywood, but in one of the biggest questions humanity has ever faced. Who was Jesus Christ, really? Background on Nostradamus. Nostradamus, born Michel de Nostradamus on December 14, 1503, in Saint-Rémy de Provence, France, would come to be noticed by a lot of people in the Renaissance period. Interestingly, he was born into a well-known, wealthy, historically Jewish family, but would grow to make his name for himself. During his lifetime, Nostradamus was a respected astrologer and physician. However, he is mainly known today for his groundbreaking prophetic writings. So how did it all start? Nostradamus's journey into the world of prophecy began after establishing himself in medicine and astrology.
He was expelled because there were complaints about him as a druggist. He was working on certain types of medicine on his own, which was something that he was not supposed to do as a doctor.
Where he gained notable recognition for his work during outbreaks of the bubonic plague in Europe. Following this period, Nostradamus became interested in mystic and occult practices, birthing his seeing side. But despite his fame as a seer, Nostradamus regarded himself more as a man of science than mysticism. Either way, Nostradamus's life as a seer was quite adventurous. His most famous work, Les Prophéties, was first published in 1555 and has become a reference point to the world ever since. The book contains 942 poetic quatrains and 4-line verses written in a highly symbolic and allegorical style. These quatrains are organized into centuries, each containing 100 quatrains, although the 7th century famously contains only 42. Les Prophéties has remained continuously in print since its initial publication, underscoring its lasting impact and the enduring intrigue surrounding Nostradamus's predictions. Now, we move to the exciting part. As its name implies, the quatrains in Les Prophéties cover many prophecies, from natural disasters and wars to the rise and fall of leaders and empires. Nostradamus lived in an era when the lines between science, astrology, and the occult were often blurred. So, to avoid the severe consequences of being labeled a heretic or sorcerer by the church, he deliberately, cryptically, and obscurely wrote his predictions using Greek, Latin, and Provincial, alongside mixed words. This method protected him from potential persecution and added an aura of mystery to his work, inviting various interpretations over the centuries, some of which will blow your mind. According to some interpretations of Nostradamus's prophecies, Nostradamus has accurately predicted major events such as the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, the rise of Napoleon and Hitler, and even the September 11th attacks. Wondering about the details? Keep watching. There are very few people who can fathom this. However, Nostradamus was a unique man who could predict his death in 1566 at 62. According to legend, he told his secretary, Jean de Chavigny, "You will not find me alive at sunrise."
Nostradamus was known as a prophet, so it should come as no surprise that his last words were also prophetic in nature. It is said that he proclaimed to his secretary, "Tomorrow at sunrise, I shall no longer be here."
Indeed, Nostradamus passed away on July 2, 1566, at 62, confirming his prediction and further cementing his reputation as a seer. Contrary to what you'd expect, he had led a relatively peaceful life and had died a natural death, having suffered from gout for several years. Before his death, he had allegedly made the townsmen swear to not disturb his resting place by exhuming his body. Yet it would happen that decades after this, his body would be exhumed. However, close to his remains was found a book where Nostradamus had written exactly when his body would be exhumed and place a curse on those involved. While this is one intriguing testament to his prophetic giftings, other mind-blowing prophecies have been credited to the mysterious man. But perhaps it will intrigue you the most to know that Nostradamus had also spoken about 2024 __ the year you're living through. But what did he have to say about 2024? As it turns out, Nostradamus had much to say about 2024, which he wrote in Les Prophéties. One of them is a terrifying prophecy about a significant earthquake in Japan that seems to have occurred already, surprisingly. In the prophecy, a great shaking of the earth in the eastern land is described. For many interpreters, this is linked to Japan, an eastern land known for its seismic activity. To everyone's surprise, a powerful earthquake did strike Japan on New Year's Day in 2024. The earthquake was massive, having a magnitude of 7.5, stirring up a gigantic tsunami while destroying major infrastructure. Sad as it was, the event reignited interest in Nostradamus's predictions and his supposed ability to foresee events centuries in advance. The Japan earthquake has renewed scrutiny of Nostradamus's writings and debates over the accuracy and validity of his prophecies. While skeptics argue that his quatrains are too vague and open to numerous interpretations, often fitting events only in hindsight, believers see these alignments as proof of his prophetic gift, maintaining that Nostradamus possessed a unique ability to peer into the future. So does this mean we have to worry about other prophecies of Nostradamus for 2024? If so, what other prophecies has he made concerning 2024? Nostradamus's predictions for 2024. Suppose there is one thing Nostradamus is known for. It would be his cryptic and often unsettling prophecies which have stayed the same, even as we consider his predictions for 2024. Here, one of the most compelling and provocative predictions attributed to Nostradamus concerns the Catholic Church, specifically the potential death of Pope Francis in 2024 and the subsequent election of a new pope. This forecast raises questions about the leadership within the Vatican and the broader implications for the Church's role in a rapidly changing world. Pope Francis, who became the head of the Catholic Church in 2013, has been a transformative figure. Known for his humble lifestyle, progressive views on social issues, and emphasis on compassion and inclusivity, he has endeared himself to millions worldwide. His papacy has been marked by efforts to reform the Church, address scandals, and bring it closer to the concerns of ordinary people. However, according to Nostradamus's prophecies, all of these would end in 2024, and the Pope would be replaced by someone new. But that is not all in terms of someone getting replaced, according to Nostradamus's 2024 prophecies. Impressively, Nostradamus's prophecies for 2024 also seem to have touched on the royal family of Great Britain. This prophecy states, "The King of the Isles will be driven out by force." Here, interpretations point to none other than the current occupant of the throne, who is King Charles III. Here, the prophecy states he would be forced out of the throne, though the means through which this would happen remains unknown. Interpreters refer to the current diagnosis of King Charles III with cancer.
Stunning news from Buckingham Palace. King Charles has cancer. The palace made the announcement today and says the cancer was discovered during diagnostic tests done after his procedure for an enlarged prostate.
This illness may threaten his occupancy of the throne, but that isn't all. Nostradamus further predicts Britain's future situation, stating that he would be replaced by one who will have no mark of a king. According to interpreters, his replacement would be none other than Prince Harry, the king's seemingly estranged son, who relatively knows nothing about rulership. Because of Charles III's diagnosis, Prince Harry has recently returned to London, further strengthening the interpretation that he might be the land's future king, although this is still mere speculation. Now let's get to the more terrifying part of Nostradamus's predictions for 2024. According to Nostradamus, 2024 will be marked by significant climate change impacts, including severe droughts, catastrophic floods, and a spate of natural disasters. Interestingly, Nostradamus's followers and interpreters have somehow managed to tie these prophecies to contemporary events, pointing to the increasingly evident signs of global climate change, such as rising temperatures, erratic weather patterns, and the growing frequency of extreme weather events. In his quatrains, Nostradamus wrote about the heavens opening and the fields burning with heat. Many believe this imagery corresponds to the record-breaking heat waves and wildfires that have become more frequent in recent years. Just last year, the world recorded one of the hottest years ever. However, 2024 promises to be worse, with the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration stating that there is a 1/3% chance that 2024 will be hotter than 2023. They further noted a 99.9% chance that 2024 would be one of the 5 hottest years. But things don't end there. Nostradamus also references rivers of blood and cities laid waste by water. These have been interpreted as prophetic visions of the devastating floods and sea level rise impacting various parts of the world. These natural disasters are not only seen as environmental phenomena, but also as portents of more significant, more systemic issues related to climate change. Now, we must confirm that 2024 in particular has seen an intensification of these climate-related events. Severe droughts have gripped large swaths of the planet, causing water shortages and threatening agriculture and food security. Simultaneously, other regions have experienced unprecedented flooding, displacing millions of people and causing extensive damage to infrastructure. In cases of extreme weather predictions, we have the likes of North America experiencing immense snowstorms. In contrast, India experiences dense fog and cold waves. These events align disturbingly well with Nostradamus's ominous predictions, fueling a sense of urgency among his followers and the general public, and amplifying calls for immediate and decisive action to combat climate change. But what about the Bible? What does it say about Nostradamus's prophecies? Although the Bible did not explicitly mention Nostradamus and it was written long before the seer came to be, it provides a guiding light on how believers must relate with their prophets and prophecies. In Matthew 24:11, the Bible says, "And many false prophets shall rise and deceive many." The book of Matthew 7:15 also says, "Beware of the false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves." This means that we ought to be careful of what we believe in and must trust in the Holy Spirit to help us discern what is true and false. While it is easy to take cues on the future from random seers, it is best that we consider what Jesus himself had to say about the future. In Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, Jesus speaks of the future, mentioning significant events that would occur, which indicate the last days. The previous days here refer to the period before the world's end. According to Jesus, nations will rise against nations and kingdom against kingdom. This is reminiscent of the current wars ongoing between nations.
Welcome to the programme. We begin in Gaza, where Israeli forces have killed 5 children after bombing a mosque and a school housing displaced people.
Jesus also stated that there would be great earthquakes in the world alongside food shortages and pestilences like the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. While this does not confirm whether Nostradamus is an actual seer, it confirms some of Nostradamus's prophecies about 2024. You might be wondering if Nostradamus had also prophesied about events beyond 2024. While Nostradamus never openly attributed his prophecies to designated years, some scholars and interpreters have studied his prophecies, drawing out interpretations for designated years. Amongst these interpretations, prophecies concerning the years 2025 to 2030 have also been derived. Some will amaze you. According to his followers and interpreters, Nostradamus's prophecies about 2025 to 2030 include the coming of the Antichrist, a terrible figure prophesied about in the scriptures. The Antichrist would be a significant opponent to the Messiah, who would gather many to himself, deceive the world, defile the holy temple, command world powers, and be worshipped. His end would only come when he is brought down by Messiah, who would save the world from his deceptive claws. According to interpretations, Nostradamus has also prophesied that World War III would happen between these years, stating that it would involve significant world powers and be highly destructive. The exact time for this event is, however, not mentioned. There are also prophecies about future massive earthquakes claiming thousands of lives. This goes hand in hand with prophecies about extinction-level catastrophes that would shake the world. However, the timing of these events is not specified. So, how accurate are these prophecies, and will they be fulfilled? Some may argue that these prophecies are subject to interpretations and could have been misinterpreted. However, when we consider other interpretations of Nostradamus's prophecies that were accurate and have shockingly come to pass, this argument is brushed to the side. But what are these prophecies? Past prophecies of Nostradamus. One of the most frequently cited examples of Nostradamus's past prophecies is the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. In his prophecy, Nostradamus speaks of the death of a great man, which many believe points directly to President Kennedy. This interpretation is strengthened by the prophecy's mention of controversy and betrayal surrounding the assassination. On November 22, 1963, Kennedy was fatally shot while riding in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas. The alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was arrested shortly after, but was killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby before he could stand trial, adding to the air of mystery and conspiracy that still shrouds the event. The prophecy's relevance is often highlighted by the enduring questions and numerous conspiracy theories that surround Kennedy's assassination. Despite the Warren Commission's conclusion that Oswald acted alone, many people remain unconvinced. Various alternative theories have emerged over the decades, suggesting the involvement of multiple parties, including the CIA, the Mafia, and even foreign governments. However, President John F. Kennedy is not Nostradamus's prediction concerning the death of a historical figure. Another such prophecy is the prophecy about the death of King Henry II of France. Concerning this event, Nostradamus wrote, "The young lion will overcome the older one, on the battlefield in a single combat. He will pierce his eyes through a golden cage, 2 wounds become 1, and he dies a cruel death." Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.